What's up, sir? What's up, my man? Okay, now I cannot hear you. Nope.
What's up, man? What's up?
I know, bro. I know, man. You trying to get me all worked up before the show. You trying to get me all worked up. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Facebook Live with Mel and Charlie on this wonderful Monday evening. Appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Wow, Charlie, what are you and Steph gonna do with your $200 tax refund from the state of Hawaii? Compliments of Governor Ige.
Well, I think if I was to look at it, I know at the end of the year, it's tax time pretty soon. And once I get my W twos and all of that, I'm gonna look at I getting $200 back, and I'm gonna look at how many thousand I'm gonna be paying to the state for that $200.
Okay, so they take in your money, Charlie, and they're gonna give you back. Hey, what's up, pops? How you, my dad, all the way from Seattle. Right on, man. Love you, dad. Yeah, so you're gonna pay them, and then they're gonna give you back $100.
Yeah,
I Yeah, Lorraine says that was a joke. I'll be honest. I'm gonna be honest. I did not watch it. I try to keep up on all the COVID information that comes out, but I already knew that that would have I would have wasted however long that conference was. So I did not watch it. Of course, when it was done, all my notifications start popping up on my phone from all the media outlets saying that we're getting $100 back per taxpayer and per dependent. And I'm thinking, that's not that's just about a tank of gas for your car or your truck. And listen, I don't like sound like one ungrateful person, but seriously, the legislature says that's going to amount to about $100 million. Uh, I honestly would give up my $100 or my $200 for the kids to get masks in their schools, for the schools to get testing in the schools, for anything that would benefit our kupuna or our kids. I would gladly say you can keep that $100 and put it to a much better use. But no, no, man. His eighth and final state of the state. He wanted to go out with a bang and say, "Is my gift to you." Unbelievable, unbelievable.
I will go with that $100 and buy $100 worth of sneakers bar.
Yeah,
That's
I,
what I
I
think. I mean, some people may
just
say, "Hey, uncle, you ungrateful." No, it's the principle. The principle is, if I was a leader of this state, I would not do something as stupid as that. Sorry. You need to do something with better substance, Governor. $100 will not, I mean, but you can buy with what, tank of gas? Okay, then thank you. Thank you for tank of gas.
you know what was frustrating in the morning. In the morning, I watched the morning news. I watched KHON, and they had lined up all these speakers that were saying all nice things about our governor, about how wonderful he's done in 8 years, how has pivoted our state. He will go down in history as one of the most innovative governors in our state. And I'm thinking, what governor are they talking about? Is are they? But it was a dog and pony show from Mike McCartney to all of the staff, all the administrative staff, and but again, Charlie, the amount of priorities in this state right now, and it's a segue into tonight's show because tonight we have Mr. Osa Tui Jr. from the Hawaii State Teachers Association. There is not one soul watching here tonight, or will be watching this tomorrow and the next day, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter. There is not one of us. And if I'm wrong, correct me in the comments, people. correct me in the comments. If I cannot imagine one of the villagers saying that we would much rather have that $100 go to our students, our kids, our teachers. Listen, if any one of you in our village right now would rather you take that $100 or 200, if you get kids, 500 or 600, whatever it is, would you rather see that $100 million go into for our students and our teachers and our staffers at the schools? I just, to me, it's a slap in the face to many people. And I'm going to say this before Mr. Tui come on, because he's a very nice man. He's a diplomat. He's an ambassador. So I'm not going to say anything that can make him put him in an awkward position. So I'm going to do it before we bring him in. But that money should be diverted to our schools, to our teachers, uh, healthcare workers. Those that have been on the front line from day one in hazardous situations, in complicated situations, in stressful situations. But to come up and say we're going to give every one of you, thank you, we'll give you $100. $100 not going to change anybody's situation. Yeah, it won't. Again, I don't want to sound ungrateful, but and trust me, I am not rich by any stretch. Patsy and I still work because I live paycheck. We all do. So it's not that I'm ungrateful. It's just that priorities need to shift to where it needs to go. So I'm trying to look at the comments because I like find one person that can tell me, no, I want that $100. The kids don't need masks. The kids don't need tests. Teachers don't need help. I like see, but there's none, as I predicted. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you, the new University of Hawaii head football coach, Mr. Osa Tui Jr.
Not quite, not quite.
What's up, my friend? What's up,
Thanks for having me this evening.
bro? That's Uncle Charlie up there, the Hawaiian.
Yeah.
We have been talking about getting you on the show for a long time. You're a busy guy. We have watched you on TV news conferences, and news articles. We've seen your comments in newspapers, and all I'm going to say before we get started, on behalf of, we call this the village. This few viewers turned into a village, but on behalf of the village, all of our viewers, we want to say thank you, Mr. Tui. Thank you to your teachers. Thank you to all of you guys that help our kids get educated and basically, define our children, develop our kids from baby to senior. We just want to say thank you and appreciate what you and all of them are doing. So welcome, welcome, welcome.
My pleasure. I grew up in a place called the Village. It was public housing in Kaneohe called Ko'olau Village.
There we go. Well, why don't we start by just short introduction of yourself? We know you're the president of the Hawaii State Teachers Association, but how did that come? Where's your background?
Yeah, no problem.
Go ahead, my friend.
I was a math teacher at Castle High School for 3 years, my alma mater, and then I moved over to McKinley High School where I taught math for a number of years before becoming what's called the registrar, which is the person who does all the student records and the grades and the master schedule and withdrawing and enrolling students and things like that. But I was always about trying to find information for our teachers and trying to get them what they needed. And eventually that led me to becoming our negotiations chairperson at HSTA and eventually our Honolulu chapter president, and then suddenly our vice president and president of HSTA. So it's been a ride.
Well, thank you for making that leap. I remember that quite well when the election was going on, and it was sort of like two very different types of leaders, two different types of and listen, I'm not dissing anybody. I'm just saying that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
And you were successful and started the collaboration because you really built your whole campaign on collaborating and working with the administration. Now, obviously, no one knew that this pandemic would take this shape and would take these turns. But at the end of the day, now you have become a very vocal advocate, which is your job, for our teachers. And we sense, Charlie and I, we do this now. We used to do 7 nights a week, went to 5, now we're down to 3. we've spoken to numerous people, doctors, experts, labor. No one from the administration yet. They don't want to take our invitation to come on our show, but um, give us a kind of 30,000 foot view of where we're at right now as it relates to your teachers and the pandemic.
Absolutely. So, when the pandemic first started in what was the third quarter of the 2018, no, 2019, 2020 school year, things had to shut down pretty quickly. And we had to make agreements with the Department of Education. Okay, because there's what's called changing working conditions, and those all need to be bargained. Like, you can't just order them. That's not in the contract, right? So the department said, okay, let's work on this. And then into the 2020-21 school year, we continued with a what's called memorandum of understanding. So these are the rules we need to follow. If this happens, this is what will happen. And so the previous superintendent, Kishimoto, that was her last year. And then we started this school year with the interim superintendent, Hayashi. We said we'd like to have a memorandum of understanding, because we still know back in that summer, it seemed like, the cases are going down and we don't have to worry, and our teachers are vaccinated, so don't have to worry. And so the department refused. They refused to sit with us and talk about, what needs to happen in case things get bad. Sure enough, the superintendent comes on and the Delta variant rears its ugly head. And it's very virulent, and people are dying, things are happening, people are afraid, right? But no, we're going to keep the schools open. It is, for the best of the students, we're going to keep the schools open. And so we've had to file first we filed what's called a grievance. There's a whole procedure, a grievance procedure that unions go through with their employers. And the grievance procedure starts with filing a grievance, stating what your case is, that, they're violating the contract that we have duly signed and agreed to. There are violations of the contract. We have a grievance. Let's talk it out. The department says, we don't have to listen to your grievance. The governor has suspended anything related to collective bargaining. So no. Well, the next step in the grievance process is then to ask for an arbitrator, to ask for arbitration, have someone who's neutral, listen to both sides, make a decision. Now, just like we said with grievances, we're not gonna deal with you guys in terms of arbitration. So then the next step, unfortunately, is having to go to the Hawaii Labor Relations Board, and they then listen to both sides and make a determination. We had to go to the Hawaii Labor Relations Board at the beginning of last school year as well, and the department came back and said, okay, let's have an agreement. This time they're not doing that. It's all sitting in the HLRB's hands now to make a decision. We've made our case. The department has made their case. And so we're not sure how the Labor Relations Board will rule in this case, but it was favorable for us the last time. And as we've been saying all along, as Delta started to come down, you need to have a plan. What are you going to do when the next variant comes along? But it just seemed like, well, no, we're not going to invest in anything more. The numbers are coming down. Our mitigation strategies are doing wonders in our schools, and everyone's safe and sound. No problems. We're not going to deal with it. Well, you need to have a plan. That's what we've continued to say. You need to have a plan. We brought up issues like, how come there's not more KN95 masks in our schools? Oh, well, those are only for the health aides or anyone working with medically fragile students. Why not get more? Why aren't teachers or students entitled to these things? Well, we're not, they weren't going to buy it. With all the federal money that they had, they were just not going to make that kind of investment. And I don't know if it's because they thought, things are on the decline. We don't have to worry anymore. No problem. We've also been asking for rapid testing to be in the schools, in every school. Well, we have our testing program. It takes 3 days to get the results, but there's testing available. And if it's not at your school, you can go to a close by school maybe and get it, or some other place. But we've been saying, we want teachers, if the students are like coughing in class or show symptoms, that the teacher should be able to say, hey, you need to go down and go take a rapid test right now to see whether you should stay or not. Because if the kid is positive or anyone else is positive, you don't want the spread to happen, right? And so you want to do something proactive rather than reactive. No, well, we have our testing regime in place, so it's good enough. And all that planning, lack of planning, I should say, lack of planning, and then we go into the winter break. Families, you don't have anything to worry about. This Omicron variant is coming, but you know what? We've only had 19 cases on average a day in the whole DOE, so nothing to worry about. Winter break is over. What happens? Omicron is like going crazy. Families have had, their Christmas parties, their New Year's parties. They've all been gathering. Omicron loves parties, loves to gather, to spread in those types of gatherings. And even people who are fully vaccinated and boosted are still coming down with COVID. Well, we worked on some plans during the winter break. We've been asking for plans for how many months, and you didn't do anything. So now it's like, okay, so you had your strategies, and we had 19 cases a month. Now we got 500 something, 19 cases a day. Now we're looking at 500 something cases a day. Not to mention that aren't even putting information into your dashboard, and so that gives a false sense of security for a lot of our communities. And what are you doing now? We have our mitigation strategies. It's working. We want to keep schools open. Sure, you want to keep schools open, but what's happening? The kids are coming and then there's no teachers there, or the kids aren't even able to come because they have to be home. What kind of lessons are going on? What kind of services? What are you doing for your students when they come and they just have to sit in the gym or the auditorium all day? And oh, well, they can do sustained silent reading. What are they're reading their phone? That's not sustained silent reading. It would have been much easier if we had had a plan. Okay, let's work this out, and if we have to move to distance for a class or something like that, at least we have it on paper. They say no, all the schools, they have their own contingency plans. Well, I don't know if you know, or it's come up at the Board of Ed meeting. Our Board of Ed members asked, so is this contingency plan for each school? Is it shared with the staff? Is it shared with the community? Oh, no, it's not shared with any of them. So how do you know that there's a plan to begin with? How can there's such a lack of planning? I'm getting worked up, but I think, our teachers are just so tired. Our teachers are upset. Our teachers just feel that they're being used and abused. And, we want to make sure that our students' social emotional learning and their mental health is stable and doing well. How do you do that when our teachers are being abused and they can't even, it's so difficult for them. How do they pass that on? I'll step off my soapbox for now.
The one of the things about this show is on the news, you may have a 10-15 minute interview and they take about a 2 minute, if that. Tonight we have you for an hour.
Yes.
So we're gonna dig deep, and we're gonna I really appreciate your candidness and your I mean, who else best to ask than someone that is in the front line. So with that, Charlie, I see when Charlie does this, when he puts you see right there, that means he's got a burning question.
My burning question is this. First of all, thank you for coming on tonight.
My pleasure.
I'm sort of wondering, and it's never been revealed how the Department of Education actually devised a plan to um, starve off this virus as it was attacking. I'll tell you the reason why. Uh, I used to here on Kauai. I used to go and decontaminate the rooms when there were cases. That was my job. I
Mhm.
was the person or the company that won the contract asked me if I could do it on Kauai. I said sure. I had I had the prior training, the equipment, and I would go in. The first thing I would look in at was the ventilation. So I'm saying, when you go inside a classroom, you look at the classroom and you look at their ventilation, how it was situated. The first thing I'm telling myself is, okay, we get enough ventilation, but I pity the child that sits right by the door because the same way air flows in will funnel out through a slim, slim area, and they would probably get contaminated the worst. But I brought this up before on many of our shows, only because I felt that, yeah, I don't think they're really looking at the best interest of the child. Until you can actually get a good ventilation program in there, first of all. That's one. Two, I've always asked Mel, What experts? I mean, we brought on experts on our show weekly, weekly. And I said, I haven't seen one expert from the DOE yet come out and say, okay, this is planned, this is step one. We will activate this because if it's done, I mean, even as bad as Red Hill is, at least they're doing something by showing us that, they're flushing the lines and we all know that's probably not going to work, but if something is better than nothing, right? The DOE has not come out not once of what the experts they have and what's been recommended. So I think I need to ask you, as head of the teachers union, what's the safety protocol for your teachers? Because I know everybody feel for our children, want our children to get the education, but if they are not, if the ones who doing the teaching and educating are not properly protected, I think in the end run, you'll end up to what you're having now, and that is not enough teachers.
Yeah, you speak about ventilation, and I'll tell you, we've been asking about ventilation for a long, long time, and the department has said, well, we've made a determination on ventilation. We've gone through and we looked, and so okay, show us the list. What's the list? And what was done and things, and we got a lot of like, we don't have that for you. Finally, they gave us this list that was very like, what is this? And I don't even think it was related to checking the ventilation in terms of what it needs in terms of COVID. So there's been a lot of just like trying to push off and do things that are not pono, right? And with regards to safety for teachers, well, the department says we have our health and safety plan. You just got to go on hawaiipublicschools.org and go look, and you'll find the plan there. And then, that's all the things that we got from the Department of Health. And then they'll make modifications to the plan. And then they won't even tell us what they changed. It's like, so can you tell us what they changed? Well, because if you look last year, they had this called errata sheet, and it would show you like, okay, this is what's been modified, this is what's been changed. We asked this year, they decided not to do that. So what's been changed? Oh, we're not going to do that. We're just going to list some basic things. And so it's like, you got to go through with a fine tooth comb on your own to see what kind of changes they've made. And then you got to ask like, okay, so why was this change made? Why was that change made? And then it's just been a complete mess going forward. And well, getting to this point, and I'm sure continuing down, our teachers want to know, and then there's not any information. And then this whole thing with the 5 days, 10 days, of isolation, quarantine, all of that kind of stuff, our teachers started to get mixed messages. Department of Health called me. They said that I got to stay 10 days at home, but my principal called me and said, you only need to stay 5. We changed the rules. Oh, and then it turns out, the DOH put out these rules, and then the department started saying, yeah, these are the new rules. And then we find out, the department said, oh, wait, that's not there. They haven't adopted those new rules yet, even though they had members, like the complex area superintendents going on TV talking about the new rules. We just changed the rules today. And then come to find out, oh, no, wait, they're saying now that they didn't. So then they did a whole press conference a couple of days later saying, oh, these are the rules now for the schools. And it's like, but these are the rules you've been following for the past week now. And so what's going on? And so it's just more bumbling of the whole situation and the refusal to, we want to sit and discuss and come up with plans that we can all together say, these are the rules. They don't want to sit with us at all. Like those teachers, we don't want to deal with them. They don't know any better. They don't, they haven't said that, but that's kind of the way that they treat us, I'll just say. But
that has been your constant plea, as long as I can remember, was, simply just sitting down with the state DOH, DOE, BOE, whoever it would take to have this, again, this collaborative discussions. I have a question. I'm going to be popping up questions from the viewers, if you don't mind, Osa.
no problem.
And this one here is, short of disclosing your legal strategy as HSTA, have you explored and considered injunctive relief options via the courts? In other words, well, I don't have to explain that. I'm sure you know.
So when you get to the court, they're going to say, did you follow the procedure?
Yeah.
That's what the Hawaii Labor Relations Board is designed for. If you have a labor complaint, you have to go through the Labor Relations Board first. If you don't like what they decide, then come to the court. So we're waiting on the Labor Relations Board to make their ruling first.
Got it. You mentioned when we were doing the counts, when they were putting out the counts to the public, and then just recently it was revealed, and you mentioned it earlier. It was revealed that uh, 40 schools weren't reporting. Some as long as I guess August of last
August,
year.
September, yeah.
We don't even know how many cases are coming out of the schools. I don't know if you know if in fact those. I mean, I heard Hayashi apologize. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. We're gonna look into getting that fixed. Has it been fixed? To as far as you know, do you believe that we are getting accurate numbers
So
of
yeah,
cases in the school?
depends on what your definition of fix is. Does your definition of fix mean you went back and you input everything that happened from August? That hasn't happened. Are they inputting it now? Well, before I go to that, when the issue came up, they're like, "Oh, it's not getting input because there's so many cases now, and everyone's so overburdened that they can't put it in." Totally overlooking the fact that it's been months and months, and cases had come down for a while, that those were not being put in, right? So let's just ignore that. But um, that's why we're telling our members, you need to, now that you know where the link is, where the data is being reported, double check. And if the numbers don't match what you're hearing at your school or what you're seeing on the ground, ask your administrators, what's up with that? Because we had, during that period of time when the 40 was revealed, teachers were asking their administrators, well, how come the numbers aren't there? And there were different answers that were coming up. One set of answers that we were hearing, that teachers were hearing, was that, well, if the case didn't originate on campus, we don't have to report it. Well, that's kind of bull, because the state was saying, the department was saying for months and months and months, there's been no transmission in our schools. No transmission in our schools. So if there was no transmission in the schools, there should have been zero for months on that dashboard. But we saw, there were cases that were being put on there because that's what the legislature said that had to happen, that there were cases or probable suspected cases needed to be reported. So that was, just a way of trying to brush aside. And then we had other administrators who said, oh, I don't know why our data is not getting uploaded to the website. So you didn't ask? You didn't go find out what was wrong for months and months? Like, it takes this kind of exposure to say, oh, okay. And then they fixed it. Like, oh, suddenly the data started coming up. And then the other part is the department didn't seem to be checking that those numbers were being put on there. And so you ask now, are the numbers accurate? Well, the other hard part about that, unfortunately, is that parents aren't reporting cases. Student parents, I've seen our teachers saying, the kid comes to school and they find out that the kid is positive. And why did you come to school? Well, my mom said to come to school, and if they send me home, then that's okay, right? Like, and I understand parents are in a hard place. They don't know what to do. They need to send their kids somewhere, but because they need to go to work. But sending the kids to school is just going to make things worse at the schools. And that's the whole conundrum of this part. But a lot of kids are either not reporting, the parents aren't reporting. I've heard of a special education teacher who's doing what's called an IEP, or an individualized educational plan for the student. And they need to call because their timelines, they call the family and say, hey, you're not here to do the plan for your student, for your child. Oh, yeah, we're all at home with COVID. Oh, did you let the school know? Oh, no, we didn't. So those numbers you're seeing can't possibly be all the numbers that are happening in our schools and with our students and staff.
I think we all got to recognize the fact that I know, and it's hard to believe, but that's what we're told by our state leaders at all levels. This COVID is a very intelligent virus. It is smart. It for some reason it doesn't attack visitors, and it doesn't attack students in school, because all the spread is from locals, and for our students that get sick, it's all from home and not from the classroom. This virus is the smartest virus I have ever heard of in my life. That's what we hear every single time they report the numbers. I just heard it on Hayashi's last press conference when he says that there is very little transmission in schools, and that in fact teach students are coming to school infected. Well, doesn't that spread in the school though? It just makes no sense,
Correct.
and it's
And
very difficult to trust the messenger of messages like that. It is because we know better. We're not stupid.
yeah, and I'm sure you've heard from members of the village that the cases are not being connected to each other in schools. There's only close contact identification. Even that, teachers at one point were not even being involved in the close contact identification. But if one person caught it from another, they don't investigate that. And if you don't investigate it, it's not going to happen, right? It's like if you don't take a pregnancy test, you're not going to be pregnant. No need worry. But you know, this is just it's been ridiculous. And the gaslighting that's been happening. We were out there months ago, doing informational pickets with these signs we got behind me, letting the public, trying to get the public to know that don't believe everything you hear. And then when we were out there saying there are no substitutes, there's just no substitutes at all. Our teachers are seeing it in the schools, and then the department says they come out and they tell the media, well, you know what? We have over 3,000 substitutes and only 1,200 requests a day. This was months ago now. Only 1,200 requests a day. So we have more than enough substitutes. And to put that kind of blatant lie, I will say it's a lie. Our teachers could see every day that there were no subs. And the reason they have 3,000 subs, but most of them are retired teachers who are like not going to step foot onto a school campus. No way, no how, with COVID going the way it is and with those with the procedures and the mitigation strategies that they know kids are kids. Kids, sometimes they have a feeling that they're invincible. And I'm not going to catch COVID. I'm not worried. And you see them at lunch and you see them at recess, before school, after school, hand in hand, mask down below their chin, things like that. There's no way the teachers can keep those kids safe. And the best they can do is just what they're doing in their classrooms. But yeah, to be told, no worries, everything's all good. You don't have to worry. Send all your kids in. It's all hunky dory. There's this, and I was saying before, there's some type of magic screen that once you walk onto campus, it's all good. No, that's not at all.
Oh, yeah. Do you have a question, Charlie?
Yeah. Um, and I understand what you said about the HLRB. So I guess the question being, they're still marching ahead as if, there's going to be collateral damage at some given point, and it seems like it's starting already. We know just from how the program has been readjusted. At one time, Kauai had the lowest numbers because of the aggressiveness from the mayor,
Correct.
who elected to opt out of the Safe Travels program and go a separate way, which meant having resort bubbles, having second testing, making it mandatory. Okay, and that worked. But then we came back in, and the rest is history. With the schools now, and what your teachers are experiencing, at what point does the union say, "Hey, wait a minute now, the levels are getting too much"? Because look where we are now. Because things have changed drastically, instead of being proactive and being at the borders to stop the virus from coming into the state, we allowed it to get so out of whack that we can't do anything right now but just keep on reminding the citizens, you got to be safe, you got to be safe, you got to be safe. So I guess my question is for the union. At what point do you feel it's time that you folks have to take other measures to proactively go to a point or to a place that you can at least safety wise stop the teachers from getting sick or getting this virus?
Yeah, we've I'm sure you've heard of Chicago, the teachers in Chicago, where they did their um, job action, let's just say, which was not legal. And we want to make sure that we want the department to follow the rules, and so we have to make sure that we keep things legal and we're following the rules as well. People have said, "Oh, you guys must be telling the teachers to do a sick out," and no, we don't tell the teachers to do a sick out. Our teachers know that if they do things like that, they're actually making it harder for their colleagues, right? And so that's not something we're going to recommend to tell our teachers, "Oh, just do a sick out." Yeah, it's been rough.
Mm-hmm.
Without the Hawaii Labor Relations Board ruling, teachers and all of our school staff have been just pushed beyond the limits, pushed well beyond the limits. And so now we're seeing that schools have to make their own rules, come up with their own reasons. Well, not their own reasons, but schools are having to do this because there is no plan in place. We saw there on Kauai last week where Chiefess Kamakahele had
Right.
to shut down for the rest of that week because they didn't have any cafeteria workers. And I just got word not too long ago that Wilcox Elementary is going to be out for the rest of this week because they don't have custodial staff. And so there should be protocols in place. A lot of our schools have not given out devices to students to just be able to convert into um,
At
distance
home.
learning or anything like that. So how do you just you don't just flick a switch and hey, we're on distance learning now. And if the department was so adamant at the start of this year that no, we're basically going back to pre-pandemic rules in terms of the contract. We're going back to things pre-pandemic, but we're just going to have masks and things like that. Well, pre-pandemic, if the school had some type of disaster or things going on and they sent people home, they didn't say, okay, I'll go home. We're going to do distance now. They just had said, okay, well, we're not going to have school for these days. And now for them to say, well, we want you to do all this distance learning and stuff, but we've been asking to sit down with you to work out these rules all these times. You are a employer and we are employees, and there has to be clear delineations on what can be asked and what can be done. And sorry, but it's the department. You need to have your feet held to the fire, making sure that you're following protocols. And that's what he's been telling that even the board of ed members were frustrated. Where's your plan? Tell us your plan. Oh, well, we can't have a one size fits all plan. Every school needs their own. And the board member was like, frankly, you're not answering the question. You need to be more transparent and share those plans. Oh, okay. So we'll share those. We'll get it done. And so we're waiting to see what is actually going to happen with regards to letting the public know what are those plans, letting the communities know, letting the staff know, because it's easy to say we have a plan, but we're not going to show you. It's a different story when it's like, okay, let's see what your plans are. What are you going to do about device distribution? What are you going to do about giving teachers time to change their lesson from an in-person lesson to a distance learning lesson? Because that is not something that can happen overnight. That is something that needs to have preparation time to be able to accomplish. And so those are all the kinds of things we want to sit down and discuss, but the department refuses. And Superintendent Hayashi, I don't know why.
I,
Yeah, me
I like
neither.
I like to say that I sorry Mel. I just want to
No.
commend. At this time, I think because we see a short snippet of you and your responses on air. It's not long as the explanations you're giving tonight. So I just want to commend you. And someone asked tonight, how are you able to keep such a calm and deliberate demeanor? And as Polynesians, we believe we have to be calm because like for me, between Mel and I'm the calm one. He's on the
Here
flight.
we go. Here we go. This
When
guy,
I started, I did say, I told um, the newspaper, everybody that, I wanted to do this job with aloha. But when you extend your hand of aloha out and you just get slapped away, I cannot just be like, oh, okay, sorry. I'm going to have to come after and advocate for what's right, right? And this is the right thing that we're advocating for. And if I got to fight for it, then I got to fight for it. If you don't want to reciprocate with some aloha and work things out, then it is what it is, unfortunately.
I think you can see the comment on the screen. How does Osa keep such a calm yet deliberate demeanor? I need to channel some of his inner zen. So you can message George White later and let him know what kind of coffee you drink or what kind of tea you drink. I had an opportunity to speak to Paul Zena, who's the Kauai complex superintendent last week, and he had shared with me. While he didn't share the details, he did say that the Kauai was working on a transitional plan that was going to take for specific. It could be um, as the level of an individual classroom or grade, or in some places like we saw at Chiefus and Wilcox, the school. I was quite impressed, and again, he explained what they were going to do here on Kauai, and then it was the day later. I had one of my friends who's actually watching tonight sent me a copy of the memo that all the parents got, which explained the process and the mechanisms that were going to be used in the event classes or grades or schools would have to close. And it was, in fact, started with Chiefers, where the first day they were going to focus on getting the teachers, making sure that all the students had the right equipment and the teachers and all of that. Now, Paul agreed he will be on our show. He said he wanted to wait until Osa came on. Uh, but I don't know. I mean, I know what he said, and I read what was provided, and it seemed like it had a pretty good, uh, defined process that Kauai was going to use. And some guys will say, "Well, Kauai, you guys can, but Kauai, you guys small, you guys don't know as many schools." Listen, we have enough. We have about a 10,000 student population here on Kauai in the public schools, and whether you have a lot of schools or the impact of COVID is the same, to that teachers and the students and the staff. One of the problems you touched on this earlier was how some schools are, and I know this is happening on Kauai because I had received calls and actually been provided photos that they group all these kids like in the morning before school, and they put them up all in the covered gym or the covered basketball court or in a gym. And we've heard the horror stories of parents that their kids are coming home, said, "Hey, our teacher was sick, so they had combined 2 or 3 classes and they stuck them in the gym or the cafeteria with a substitute," or whatever the case is. Is that happening statewide? Is that something that's only happening on Kauai, or is it? You mentioned the substitute shortage. Is that something that is happening statewide? And the problem is, like you mentioned, what is really the quality of learning that is happening in that type of environment? Well, you may as well leave them at home and have a structured uh, distance learning program. Is that something that's statewide, that problem?
That is definitely happening statewide. Um, and when you hear, when 40% of the class is out, how do you start a new lesson with that, the rest of the class, right? Because you're just going to have to reteach it again. Whereas if everyone was able to be on a distance learning for that day, that week, that short period of time while the numbers come back down, then at least everyone can get the instruction, right? Or we have teachers who their children have been close contacts or something. So the child has to stay home. So the teacher has to stay home. The teacher might be more than willing to do a distance lesson, uh, but the rules are not set in stone. Well, they're not set right now. And so one of the things you see is Zena might be coming out with his plan for Kauai schools. Then we see maybe on the other side of the state in Kohala, and we've seen it, they've come out with a plan and they said, well, if we have to do some kind of shutdown, we're going to have 2 days of teachers planning for it, and then we're going to, figure out device distribution and go for it. Okay, so now we got 2 different sets of rules going on in 2 different parts of the state. What is it? And you can't do that. You're changing the working conditions for a set of teachers. It should be consistent. And while the department says, oh, one size doesn't fit all, there still needs to be some parameters that schools need to abide by, right? Is it going to be 1 day or 2 days? Why are they only getting 1 day? Well, this part of the state is getting 2 days. All those kinds of things need to be worked out. It's not just it shouldn't be willy-nilly. And that's why we have too much willy-nilly stuff going on in this state.
New T-shirt, Charlie. New T-shirt. Willy nilly. Don't be willy nilly.
Yep.
The one consistent thing in this state as the response to the pandemic is the inconsistency. The inconsistencies at all levels for all. I mean, it is right. It's like, why can't the governor come out with a statewide policy on testing, on quarantining, on restaurants? But why is it Honolulu and Maui and Kauai? Everybody's different. Why
Right.
don't we have a statewide
Correct.
plan? And we're going on to year 3. So I sense your frustration. I feel that same frustration with just our daily lives here.
Well, even in
To
Dina's
see,
office, I'll say, we have what are called the resource teachers, right? And they're working over there in the district office on Kauai. And there were folks in that office that weren't wearing masks, and they were told by the CAS, "Oh no, those rules only apply to the schools. You don't have to worry about wearing your mask in the district office." It was like, no, the rules clearly state in the documents that all school facilities, whether it be a classroom or other, need to follow these rules. And so once again, willy nilly, willy nilly, willy nilly.
boom, willy nilly. Charlie, new shirt, buddy, coming
Yeah.
up.
There's another question I wanted to find out. Uh, the consensus of your teachers, they're probably, I can assume that they're getting so frustrated, and yet I guess they're scared, and they're asking for some kind of guidance. And I don't know if you can reveal if you're giving them the guidance to say, hey, because I face the same situation down at the airport. If any of my workers feel that, hey boss, I'm sorry, but this is just too much I gotta deal with. I got Kupuna living at home. I take care of Kupuna. I'm fully vaccinated, but yet I know it's proven that I can get infected with even though I won't be hospitalized. I can take it home to the. I'm I'm sure you're getting those kind of concerns from your teachers, are you?
Oh, absolutely. And when protocols aren't being followed, we hear from teachers that say
Mhm.
their administrators won't even wear their masks. They'll be in the middle of a meeting indoors and like, well, I'm not going to wear my mask. I'm far enough away from you. And if you can't follow the rules, and then what's the point of having the rules, right? We've also seen where what we call non-classroom teachers, so things like counselors and others who don't have a class are being pulled, right? Sorry, stop doing your job there, and we're going to make you. Um, and I've used this word before, and I use it again: babysit a class, because that's what it is. It's just standing there as an adult supervisor, watching over kids who are encouraged to come to school, so that because that's the best place, and then what kind of education are they getting? And so we have told these non-classroom teachers, here's what you need to ask. Is this a directive? Are you directing me? And if they're being directed, then you do it. And then we take action afterwards. But because we don't want anyone to be insubordinate, because the department likes to try and ding folks for being insubordinate. So yeah, we're providing our members with as much information as possible. If you go to hsta.org, you'll find a whole plethora of information that we put out weekly. We have a great communication staff. We have great other staff who analyze all of these memos and try and find, things that are not proper and not right. And we go to the department and we say, hey, what's up with this? You're not supposed to be doing this. And it's a constant battle, a constant battle.
I know you referenced earlier, even the Board of Education was confused. They were asking a lot of questions. What's the relationship like between HSTA? Is there any communication with the Board of Education versus the Department of Education? Um, are you getting any assistance from the board as well?
We're definitely in touch with Chair Payne. Chair Payne has, done her best to try and look out for these issues as well. We had asked them to take a look at COVID numbers. We felt that COVID numbers should be addressed at every single board meeting. What is the status update of COVID? For a whole bunch of time, there was no discussion at all of COVID. Like, oh, we don't have to talk about that. And then finally in December, they did put it on the agenda, and they were looking at it, and kind of like, oh. And then we were told, but don't expect this to become a regular thing. Interestingly, though, last week Thursday they put it on the agenda again, and so we would like to see this more regularly so that they can discuss. The board needs to be guiding the department and taking action, and a lot of what we see is just discussion items and not action items. And we need to have a board that takes more action to make sure that our schools are being kept as safe as possible. And I think they're now starting to see that what the department is doing is not kosher. Let's just say.
I think
So
now everybody is beginning to see. I think because it's getting somewhat more publicity now than it was a month or two ago, as we see more students uh, not showing up to school because of COVID, teachers not showing up for school, as you said, cafeteria workers or custodial staff. I think it's really getting everybody's attention now. I am just frustrated that our state, and again, I kind of direct my criticism to the governor, lieutenant governor, because while they can punt to the DOE or they can punt to any other agency, at the end of the day, they are responsible for the safety of our citizens and our people. And even as recent as this morning, I hear the lieutenant governor again saying that we are plateauing and that we are good. We only had 300 some odd people in the hospital, which no, that's not true. We have over 400 in the hospital. Um, so it's like you guys get mixed messages. We all get mixed messages. What the hell message is the one we should be listening to? And I think a lot of people are sensing that now. And I think the board members as well are starting to say, hey, maybe we're going to start paying more attention and focusing on providing that oversight on the department, which is their function. And hopefully it'll move in that direction. I sure hope so.
yeah, and the numbers in the hospitals too. You might give a blanket number, but what's happening on Maui? What's happening on Kauai? Where there might only be a certain number, but if some of our communities have no beds left, that's really troubling and disturbing. I did see one comment, I think, from Sierra about don't use the language of babysitting. And the reason why I do say babysitting is oftentimes we have students who are in the cafeteria who are just being given adult supervision by security guards, for example. Our substitutes do an amazing job. They're given lesson plans and they do their best. Our substitutes too, some of them are not coming back to do this job right now because they come expecting to substitute for one particular teacher. All right, I've agreed with this teacher. I'm going to come and substitute. They get to the school, and then the school says, no, you know what? We're going to pull you and we're going to make you do this other thing that you weren't expecting to do. And the subs are like, well, if that's what you're going to do, then I'm not even going to come, right? And those kinds of things are really tough for the situation. So while, yes, substitutes do an amazing job, there is a lot of babysitting going on when you have a cafeteria or you have an auditorium, you have a gymnasium full of students, there is no lesson that's going to be going on for those students.
I've heard non-teaching employees. I've heard, you got to imagine, Charlie and I get a lot of messages and emails and from all over. And yes, we get some hate ones too. But I will say this, and this is, not to defend Mr. Tui here, but I have heard straight from substitutes as well as non-teaching employees like the cafeteria worker or the custodian to go stand in the gym. And from out of their mouths, it's babysitting. Yeah, it is what it is. I mean no disrespect to substitutes. Trust me, I've had a little bit of experience in those classrooms with kids. I would never do it. I always told my wife, my worst day as a cop was better than one day, the best day as a teacher. So, I mean,
we have districts on the mainland saying, hey, parents, come out and become a substitute for us today. Come, we need subs. Why don't you come and be a substitute for us? And it's just...
Yeah. I saw the governor in the news the other day from some
New
state on the mainland.
Mexico.
Yeah, she's going to substitute because now is she going to be teaching or is she going to be babysitting? It's babysitting, and no offense. I mean that's you have to have that adult supervision. That's what they are, an adult supervisor, and it's sad. And again, I go back to my original question: what quality of education are they receiving? I can tell you what, they're getting very good at their gaming apps and their social media experience, but they're
exactly.
not learning. And
you talk about how have a much more time here. I hear back from teachers. You may have seen the Kahuku cafeteria picture where the kids were all sitting at the cafeteria tables next to each other, and I've had teachers say, "How come you didn't mention that they're not socially distant?" And I had to send them back. Well, if you looked at this news channel and here's their story, I did say it. So, what the media says and takes of what I say, I don't have any control over. So, I appreciate this time with you folks. Mahalo, Mel
Yeah,
and Charlie.
and the people too, the viewers. I'm sure you can see the comments run up. It's going so quick. I cannot. I know Charlie pays a lot of attention to the comments. Thank God. But it moves so quick, and I apologize if I miss any questions from the viewers. But I just wanted to have this dialogue with you, free and easy, open, candid, and and really appreciate your time.
Yes, and
Charles,
yes.
what's
Well,
what you got?
I what I've learned tonight, and I'm again, I am just very elated to know the fact that we have someone that we've seen on syndicated news agencies here in Hawaii. And again, those snippets have been so short. I wanted to hear more, but tonight, getting a feel that, and he's describing the step by step manner in which the union is trying to protect its members. I mean, I I'm just
Well,
happy.
I'll
I'm,
also say that we are also fighting for the safety of our students, right? They don't have necessarily that voice to speak up, and we see that our teachers are being put between a rock and a hard place. Being Seeing that the department is saying our schools are safe, no need to worry, and then they have 35 kids in their class, and how do you keep those 35 kids safe, right? And so it's then on the teacher, like, okay, well, we're telling everyone that it's safe, so you better make sure that it's safe. How do you do that? How can you possibly do that? And then,
Mhm.
we continue to say, what's the plan? What's the plan? And we see the dashboard, and Delta, the numbers for Delta go like this. And then later on, you see the numbers for Omicron going like this. We don't know what's next. This might just be the beginning of this pandemic. It might not even be the middle or the end, unfortunately. And what's going to come along next? And what is the plan for when something even worse comes? Because, we're seeing many parts of the world, they don't even have access to vaccination. And that's where a lot of the variants, right, are starting to develop. And you can see how they sweep the globe once they develop. And we got to be prepared. And we're just still not prepared. We're not prepared.
Mhm.
There's a new variant of Omicron that has now surfaced. I think it's already overtaken Denmark and a few other countries. It's deja vu, right? And we have an opportunity. Tomorrow night we have Dr. Larry. Why do I have a brain fart?
Brilliant.
Brilliant, Larry Brilliant, Dr. Larry Brilliant, world-renowned epidemiologist, was part of the team that got rid of smallpox many decades ago. But he's going to be on tomorrow, along with Congressman Kai Kahele, to talk about this variant and this virus and how this thing operates and why it's so important for us to control the entry into our state from any virus, any variant. And, and there's no discussion about it, It's again, our state says we're done. We're done. And our hospitalizations are climbing. We're not done. And even if we plateau, this is not the end of COVID, of the coronavirus. And we have no plan in place. We this state has been very good at living day by day, living day, no long-term plan. It's just, well, what we're gonna do today, guys? It's like backyard football. What we're gonna do? Bro, just go deep. Just go deep. I go find the open one and I go throw the ball. No more plan. And it's scary. And I know the kids don't have a union, but what OSA and HSTA is doing for to protect our teachers, it's in essence protecting our children. It's the teachers and the students are in the same confines. So we appreciate what you do for our teachers, because it definitely, the beneficiaries are our students and our other staff of the school. It's like nurses, right? It's not just the nurses we care about. We care about the custodians or housekeepers, whatever they call them. We care about the clerical staff. We got one of our best supported villagers, Melissa Bolton. She works in a respiratory therapy department. She sees so much. But when we talk about the nurses, we try to do what's right for the nurses. It's all inclusive of every single support staff,
Correct.
patient in a hospital, similar to the schools. It's not just the teachers, it's the students, it's the custodians, it's everyone. It's
Yeah,
everyone.
absolutely. We see those kids who are. Uh, I One teacher was saying how they were having a discussion with their kids upon return, and then like, oh, so have your families, had COVID? And all the hands go up. Oh, my auntie, my uncle, my dad, my mom. We all, it is scary, and for our teachers, they're worried about taking it home. There was that teacher at Baldwin High School months and months ago who just wanted to let her kids know, if I take this variant home, if I take not the variant, if I take COVID home to my elderly parents and they pass away, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to kill myself. And for that teacher to have been brutally, um, taken down by all of these anti-vax people, that was just she's just telling her story. And we already have a teacher shortage crisis as it is. We don't have enough teachers in the profession, and they're just saying, "I'm out, I'm out," and our nobody wants to come in. So we have now more and more people who are saying, "I don't want that job," and more people saying, "Hey, guess what? I'm 55. I'm out." And they're not even waiting until like the end of the semester or end of the school year. It's like I just turned 55, October 20, whatever, and November 1st I retired. It's going to get worse, and it's going to have a direct impact upon our students if we can't have more people coming into the profession. And it's hard to tell students our own. We want more local teachers. We want more teachers to come from our ranks. But how do you tell students, come on in, come be a teacher? They can see firsthand the struggles that everyone's going through, and so it's not going to get any better anytime soon, I don't think.
I'll share something small that I've been looking at for a long time now, and that is today. A worker came up from Honolulu, and he's been working with me at the Lihue Airport. We're going into high technology. We're trying to keep the airport safe against all forms of um, from terrorism, everything. We're looking into this technology that it's been proven elsewhere in other countries, and we're looking at adopting that here in Hawaii. And he and I was just talking about the same thing, and that was he feels that because this state does not give him and even me the confidence that we're able to battle this virus head on. And remember when we first started, everything was flattening the curve, flattening the curve. They don't even talk about that now. And to me, and he said, to me, that is a sign of defeat. And so, how can you be confident going into the workplace knowing that you're coming into a battle that not even your own state is willing to help you fight? Because
Some of
most of us did not ask for this. We got thrown into it, and if we did just a little in the beginning, we would have been much better off than where we are right now.
some of the health and safety documents that the department refers to specifies that if a classroom has more than 10% or 20% and a school has more than 10, 20% absences, that you need to report it to the Department of Health. That's all out the window. Like, uh, there's no point in some of these rules. Uh, and the department also says, these are the rules we've had, these are the strategies we've had, and those strategies were developed pre-Delta, and it didn't, do so well during Delta. It's not doing well now, and they're not making some of the right decisions, unfortunately. And but at first when I talked to the board of ed, I got chastised. We see people on TV that are trying to tell different stories, and we really should be letting the public know that our schools are safe. And now you kind of hear a different story. You hear a different tune. That we need to make sure we have plans. There should be plans. But you know what? That's what I've been talking about all these months. We need to have plans. So better late
The
than never.
problem
But let's
the
see if
problem also was that those board members were listening to leadership, state leadership. No, seriously, that's really if you paid attention to just what was coming out of the state. The Department of Health, Dr. Libby Char, she was kind of squelched off to the side. They never let her speak freely. So they listen to the governor, lieutenant governor. You come out knowing, and I really cannot blame the board. I mean, when you're being fed this garbage information and expected to make these choices and decisions, but for most of us, I know for all of us in the village, we saw through that garbage. We saw through it because it. We know people that work in hospitals. We know people that work in schools. We know what's really happening, so we can differentiate between the misinformation that was being spewed out from the state and what we actually saw was happening in real time. And so hopefully the board understands and starts to pay more attention and ask the right questions. Even our legislature also, you remember in the beginning, Senate COVID committee, they were asking tons of questions. We had them on our show several times, and it was pretty cool because they would go back to their Senate committee and ask the questions that was generated from our viewers and from ourselves on the show. And that went away. There really is no discussion anymore. And if it's really about how good we're doing, and no worry, go get your booster, and no worry. That's the message from the state, and that is not the right message right now. But what are you gonna do? I don't know how many of our, remember years ago, HSTA came with a program. They put elected officials in classrooms for the whole day. I don't know if you were around at the time. This was many, many, many years ago. I was on the council. They stuck my butt in a school out in a classroom in Waimea. That's what my limited experience. But maybe it's time we do that again.
Yeah,
Maybe
we always invite our legislators to come out and teach for a day and to step in our shoes and see. But our teachers feel they see the dichotomy of things where come to school, they're safe, no worries. But you know what? We're going to have the Board of Education meetings online, nothing in person. We're going to have the legislature without anybody inside, but no worries. Our schools are safe. And it's just, they just feel used and abused. And willy-nilly. And thank you, Makele, for giving me that willy-nilly phrase. I got it from some teachers over there. That's so
we're going to have to, yeah, we're going to have to figure out a way to credit the HSTA with the willy-nilly phrase. We're going to do a fundraiser and sell "Don't Be Willy-Nilly" T-shirts, and proceeds go to the teachers. Yeah. That might work. That might work.
Go for it. I would definitely like to return back to the schools. Because when I was assisting in responding to disinfecting the schools from reported cases, sometimes I would stand in awe at the entrance because that's where you start fogging, you start laying it heavy, right? But just the ability to look in their classroom and see, there is no 6 foot distance.
You couldn't.
There is nothing safe about that classroom. From what I can see, the way the tables and chairs are set up, that the child was safe to begin with. But again, who am I, right? I'm just from Kanaka helping out the cause, disinfecting the class. But yet it angers me to think that if they tell your child, hey, don't play with fire because it burns, right? But yet you put them in the middle of a big bonfire that we can see is going inwards instead of going outwards. Why would you want to put the child in the middle anyway?
Correct.
That's the thing that I don't get.
Yep. Our children are planning these things. Unfortunately, one of the questions came up in one of the recent Senate or House meetings. So what about families who want to, with Omicron, what about families who want to convert to distance learning? Oh, sorry, they needed to get back in that all the way in August. So if they missed the boat on that, can try call the school and see. But crazy times, and I appreciate the village for keeping strong here.
Well, I tell you, cannot underestimate the power of this village. We get the best village right here, and we had about 200 viewers tonight live, but tomorrow when you go check Facebook and YouTube and you count the viewers, it's going to be probably 1,200, 1,300 because a lot of our legislators, the governor's staff, and the lieutenant, they watch afterwards once we go offline because they don't want their name pop up on the comments. So yeah, this message will be out for sure, and we just wanted to give you an opportunity to share and uncensored, unedited, unscripted. I do. We're at the 8 o'clock hour already, so I do want to give you an opportunity to share whatever you want. take as much time as you want. To our viewers that may be here live and will be watching this in the next week or so.
Yeah, just thanks to everyone for caring. All of your viewers are people who care about these things. And oftentimes I say, people won't fight over things if they don't care. And if you don't care, you're not going to do anything about it. Your viewers and we care. We care about the safety of our students. We care about making sure that our teachers are in safe spaces, our students and our staff are in safe spaces. And we will continue to advocate for that through no matter what comes along. And so mahalo for this opportunity, and have a good evening to everybody that's watching.
Right on, Sir Charles.
Well, on behalf of our guests, I like to say to him, mahalo. Thank you so much for coming on. And to all of our family and friends watching tonight, thank you so much. And I would be remiss if I didn't do this for all of you. You've given me the strength time and time again, and I want to show you how the strength can be given back. You go out and you get yourself a Snickers bar. And remember, we started this almost 2 years ago. You seen Uncle Charlie just eat Snickers, make you happy, put a smile on your face. This is one of the times where Uncle will have one for you. So here's to all of you for fighting the fight, for keeping our students safe, for keeping our teachers safe by giving the word and expressing your feelings about how things should be. Because I can tell you right now, there's plenty of people in high places, they're not listening. They're not listening. Remember now, election is right around the corner. So here goes. This goes out to you.
Gee, ooh, you go, Uncle Charlie.
Uncle Charlie, Mr. Snickers. Mr. Snickers. Well, Osa, thank you. Oh, look at my wife. Look what I get. I get little oranges. That's what I get. There's no candy. My dad sends. Yeah, my wife keeps me on this strict diet so I can remain this lean, mean fighting machine. But my dad, I talked to my dad yesterday from Seattle. He said, "No, no worry. I will send you some candy." And he usually send me a nice big box. But anyway, hey, I see a lot of comments about, hey, what can we do? What can we do to help? Listen, the best thing you can do is share this video. Share this show. Share if you're on YouTube, post it. If you're on Facebook, just hit the share button. Get this to go viral. Let the public understand what's really happening, because we're not getting. What the heck was this? Something had just popped up on my. Oh, geez. Anyway, sorry about that. Something had popped up on my little monitor. I was freaked out. But yeah, just share it and share the story. Share the story with people tomorrow at work and let them know that we're trying to do what we can to help our teachers, our students, our staff, everybody. And I thank you. Osa, for standing up and speaking out. I know it's challenging, it's tough, but if we don't do it, who will? Yeah, if we don't do it, who will? So to the villagers, again, thank you for tuning in tonight. Tomorrow night, we have Representative Kai Kahele with Dr. Brilliant. That'll be an interesting show. I've been trying to get Dr. Brilliant on the show for a very long time, and Mr. Kai Kahele made the connection, so he'll be on tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Again, share it, make it go viral, and let's make a difference. All right, guys. With that, you guys take care. God bless. We love each and every one of you. Osa, tell you, Ohana, thank you for sharing you with us for an hour tonight. Stay safe. God
Absolutely.
bless. We'll see
Good
you
night.
guys tomorrow night. All right. Aloha.
Aloha.